And now, a story from the Appleseed.
Thank you. Once upon a time, there was a skunk family. There was a mom skunk, there was a dad skunk, there was a big brother skunk, there was a baby skunk, and there was a skunk in the middle, and her name was Charlene. And one day, it was the big brother's turn to set the table. It set it right there on the job chart, the parents' vain and futile effort to get their children to take responsibility for something. It was the big brother's turn, but he did not feel like doing it, because that's how big brothers are sometimes. So rather than do it himself, he turned to Charlene, the skunk in the middle, and said, "Hey, Charlene, set the table." Charlene, the skunk in the middle, looked up at the big brother skunk and said, "No." And he said, "I'm the big brother skunk. You're the skunk in the middle. Set the table now." And Charlene, the skunk in the middle, said, "No." And he said, "Set it now or else." And Charlene, the skunk in the middle, looked up at the big brother skunk and said, "You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. You might be the boss of you, but not the boss of me." And the baby skunk said, Just then, into the room came the mother skunk. She should have stayed out of it, but she couldn't help herself. She said, "What's going on?" And before Charlene, the skunk in the middle, could explain anything, the big brother skunk said, "Mom, Charlene won't set the table." And without asking, without doing further research, the mother skunk turned to Charlene, the skunk in the middle, and said, "Charlene, you set that table right now." And Charlene, the skunk in the middle, looked up at the mother skunk and said, "No." "Oh, yeah." She said, "Charlene, I am your mother. You set that table right now." Charlene, the skunk in the middle, said, "No." She said, "Young, you set that table right now or else." Charlene looked up at the mother skunk and said, "You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. You might be the boss of you, but not the boss of me." And the baby skunk said, Just at that moment, into the room came the father skunk, traditional skunk family. He said, "What's going on?" And the mother skunk said, "Dear, I do not know what to do." "What is it, honey?" "It's Charlene, the skunk in the middle." "Why, what's wrong with her?" "She won't set the table." "Won't set? Yes, she will." "Charlene, you get that little striped tail over to the table and you set it right now." Charlene looked up at the father skunk and said, "No." "You little stinker." Actually, true. "You set that table right now, young lady." Charlene, the skunk in the middle, said, "No. I'm the father. You set that table right now or else." Charlene looked at the father skunk and said, "You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. You might be the boss of you, but not the boss of me." And the baby skunk said, The father skunk said, "Dad, I had it. Like when they are really bent out of shape, they cannot finish one sentence. And I'm calling the police." It's an option. He got on the skunk phone. He called up the skunk's police station. The skunk chief of police answered the phone. "This skunk chief." "Yeah, there's Father Skunk over on Skunk Lane." "Yeah, I got a problem." "Somebody breaking in your garbage?" No, we do that ourselves, thanks." "It's Charlene, the skunk in the middle." "Yeah, she won't set the table." "Won't set the table? We'll be right over." The skunk chief of police showed up in his black and white. Okay, forget it. Knocked on the door. "Who is it?" Little pig, let me come in." "Not by the..." Oh, sorry. Yeah, wrong story. "Who is it?" Rapunzel, let down your long hair." "Not by the hair of my chin." Oh, that's really weird. "Who is it?" "It's a skunk chief." "Where you been?" "I got stuck in another story." "Open up the door." Open up the door. "Where is she?" "Over there. Up against the wall, Charlene. I'm the skunk chief of police. You set that table right now." Charlene looked up at the skunk chief of police and said, "No." "I got my skunk badge. I got my skunk stink gun." "You set that table right now." Charlene, the skunk in the middle, said, "No." "Set the table. You're under arrest." Charlene looked up at the skunk chief of police and said, "You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. You might be the boss of you, but not the boss of me." And the baby skunk said, "That does it. You're under arrest. Put her in the car." They put her in skunk handcuffs. They put her in the skunk squad car. They took her down to the skunk police station. They booked her, and they took her in front of the skunk judge. Hear ye, hear ye. Order in the court. Order. Some kid sent me an email, said, why don't you say that? I said, I will. Skunk chief of police said, Your Honor, what do we got? Chief, it's a tough case. Who is it? Charlene, the skunk in the middle. One of those. What'd she do? That's what she didn't do. She won't set the table. Won't set the table, I think she will, Charlene. I am the judge in this court. I order you to set the table. Charlene looked up at the judge and said, No. You are before me in my court. I order you to set the table. Charlene said, No. Set the table or I find you guilty. Charlene looked up at the skunk judge and said, You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. You might be the boss of you, but not the boss of me. And the baby skunk, who had come along, said, Order in the court, I find the defendant guilty. Take her to the king. I don't want to lose you now. Don't give up on me. We've come this far. There was the skunk king was, sitting on the skunk throne, large and smelly. That's how they got there, I guess. And the judge said, Your Royal Highness. And the king said, Yes, Judge. Something's wrong in your kingdom. My kingdom. Smells fine to me. It's Charlene, the skunk in the middle. She won't set the table. Won't set the table. I think she will, Charlene. I am your king. Set the table. Charlene looked up the skunk king and said, No. I'm the king of all the skunks. You're a skunk. Set the table now. Charlene said, No. Set the table now or else. Charlene looked up at the skunk king and said, You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. You might be the boss of you, but not the boss of me. And the baby skunk said, Uh-oh. The skunk king rose from the skunk throne, looked down at Charlene, the skunk in the middle, and said, Charlene! Charlene, would you please set the table? And Charlene said, Why, sure. I'd be happy to since you asked me so nicely. He said, Why, thank you very much. She said, You're very welcome. What are you doing for dinner? Well, I don't know. Didn't have any plans. Well, come back over to our house and bring the judge and the chief of police too. He said, Well, I think I will. And they did. They went back to the skunk house on Skunk Lane. And Charlene set the table, even though it was not her turn, because someone had asked her politely, and they had a very nice meal. But at the end of the meal, they looked up at the job chart to see whose turn it was to clear the table, and whose turn do you think it was? Charlene's. But she didn't feel like doing it because she was exhausted from setting the table. Those chores are so demanding. So, you have to open the drawer and take the forks and knives and spoons out. She's worn out. So rather than do it herself, she turned to the baby skunk and she said, Hey, baby skunk, clear the table. And the baby skunk said, No. She said, I'm the skunk in the middle. You're the baby skunk. Clear it now. And the baby skunk said, No. And she said, Clear it now or else. And don't forget, you'll learn what you're taught. And you're taught by example. Because the baby skunk looked up at Charlene, the skunk in the middle, and said, You're not the boss of me, you're not the boss of me. You might be the boss of you, but not the boss of me. And everybody said,
Thanks for joining us for a story from the Appleseed.